Okay, well, I'm going to give sort of a summary of it, and I know that some of my co-panelists want to go into some of the history in some more detail. I think already a couple of people have said it's the result of private and government practices, right? And so we designed this, and the inequities we see today were the byproduct, or I should say maybe the direct result of practices, really most directly from practices in the 1930s in terms of our appraisal practices, our redlining in terms of how the government specifically in making available loans, government insured loans, directed that money to certain communities and excluded other communities. Prior to that, racially restrictive covenants were an effort to exclude people from certain areas, and specifically homes in certain areas. So we, as a country, supported that. I mean, initially, there were efforts to actually zone people of color out of communities. And so cities like Baltimore and others were actually attempting to say, blacks couldn't live in certain parts of Baltimore, and the Supreme Court said you could not do that. It became clear in time that racially restrictive covenants, private agreements written into the deeds of homes could be permitted. And the forerunner of my association, I'm at the National Association of Realtors. Back in the day, in the 1920s, we were the National Association of Real Estate Boards. That forerunner went about communities encouraging people to put racially restrictive covenants in their homes to keep people out of those communities and supposedly protect value. And it all started on the south side of Chicago and went nationwide. But it was a widespread practice and encouraged and supported by the federal government until 1948, when the Supreme Court said you couldn't do that. But of course,